All right, so we are in post-show. We were having a conversation, so we're going to start today on something that we weren't really planning on talking about, because Chesney was just explaining how you found convents who were putting on the vagina monologues.
Yes, this is a spinoff of us talking about sex ed. And back when Texas A&M Corpus Christi actually had a women's center and was doing good works, they don't anymore because vaginas are icky.
They shut down the one in Kingsville also. I think they're bringing it back, or they're trying to.
Well, that would be nice. Back when it was actually a functional thing, I volunteered and my roommate was actually staff there. And for several years, they actually hosted the Vagina Monologues. The theater group on campus, the people that were getting their major in theater and whatnot, would put it on. Of course, the money goes to V-Day, which for those of you that are unaware, Eve Einsler, who puts it on, every year picks a focus group that the money goes to, and we did things like Women After Katrina, we did Women of the Sudan, we did all kinds of various focus groups. And the Vagina Monologues is a monologue for the people that protested that don't speak English. You sit in a chair and you talk at the microphone. That being said, every single year our posters were torn down repeatedly because they have the word vagina in them. And we actually had faculty...
You can't say that on this show.
I'm sorry. the hoo-hoo dillies. We actually had...
Excuse me, it's Tinklebox.
Excuse me.
I think we need to make sure that Chesney's not on the show again.
Right, yeah. You don't even know basic.
Sanctioned, right?
I'm sorry. I don't know which one I have. I haven't looked at it before.
Yeah, and don't, because it's straight to hell.
But yeah, we actually had faculty make complaints about the obscene nature of the show using anatomically correct terms. And like I said, for the first few years, it wasn't popular enough that people didn't really know what we were doing.
Right.
But by, I guess, year 3 or 4, we had groups posting things in newspapers saying that they were going to boycott and that they were going to have protests, obviously all the local church groups. And then my roommate at the time, Amber, had to make a list of all the what the Vagina Monologues is, what it's all about, a list of the places that would host it, and in fact the list actually includes several convents here in Texas, so obviously it's not that bad. And she had to present this to the president of the university, explaining it's a monologue.
Right. I want to go see the Vagina Monologues given out by like these ancient nuns. I want to see ancient nuns in the habits talking about their vaginas.
Oh, I would. Well, every year Eve writes up new monologues, so every year it's different. I would love to see a nun in a giant habit talking about the woman who makes vaginas happy.
Don't touch my vagina. It's Jesus' temple. Don't touch. I don't know what kind of vagina monologues you get out of a Catholic nun, but I imagine it would be just fucking epic. I wonder if we can find that on YouTube. While I'm looking for vaginas on YouTube, Jeff, you were talking earlier about your holiday travels. Please relate your travel nightmare story for everyone.
Okay, so traveling during the Christmas time break, I didn't know what all that entailed. It's the first time I've ever actually flown anywhere around Christmas time.
Oh my.
And it was, everything was packed, every place. It was real easy. I went up to Michigan, near Detroit. It was not hot at all. It was not hot at all, but it was also not as cold as it normally is there in Michigan.
That's good.
I ran on Christmas Day. It was not. It was cool, but just not. Nothing was frozen. On the way back, though, no snow while I was there. I saw a few flurries one morning, but that was non-existent. None of it stuck. But on the way back, weather had hit. And everything, including the nonsense there that happened in Dallas with the tornadoes and the rest of the wintry stuff. And on the way back, I went from Detroit to Charlotte, North Carolina, then to DFW.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and in DFW, everything was delayed. And this is people traveling on Christmas. I didn't realize that this would be the nonsense. Every single plane I got on was full to capacity. and people had so much shit with them. They're obviously people who didn't travel all the time, and they brought everything and their dogs, and literally brought their dogs. I'm not kidding you. The number of dogs that I saw on these fucking flights was more than I've ever seen before. In fact, I don't remember ever seeing dogs on flights other than like service dogs before. But these people were bringing their pets along.
That's crazy. It's actually being a vet tech. It's actually quite a procedure to get your dog approved to fly, because the crates that they're in have to be inspected.
Oh, there were a ton of them. There were a ton of dogs on these flights. There were a ton of little kids on the flights, and it was just.
Can we put the kids in crates?
I think they did.
Soundproof crates.
I think they did. And I was. I had spent more time getting just from Detroit back down towards Corpus, and I was starting to think there was no way that I was going to make it even today because of the stuff that was going on in Dallas with the winter storms and the rest. But all of my flights ended up, they took a little bit longer than they should have, mostly because of people boarding and how full it was and how dumb people are when they're trying to, bring on their 14 different bags, even though they're supposed to. And, they'd stand in the middle of the hall, in the middle of the aisle, trying to shove shit up on top. And, it's awful. Instead of getting out of the way and let people come by. So it took way longer to board than it should have. But as a result of that, my flight from Charlotte to Dallas, I was supposed to have like a 50-minute layover.
Wow.
And changing terminals. Now, normally that's plenty of time, because I've done this before. I've been into DFW before, But when I started looking at how delayed some of these were, and the time that things were taking, I thought, oh, this is going to be a problem. This is going to be a serious problem. And sure enough, our Charlotte flight started boarding about the time that it should have started boarding, but it probably took an extra 30, 40 minutes to get off the ground.
Wow.
They managed to make up a little bit of time on the way. But I'm sitting like 16 rows back, and we're coming up to the gate. It took us a long time to get to the gate, and I'm looking at it, and it's about 10 to 15 minutes between the time that they're going to get everything hitched up and the time that I have to make it to a different terminal.
Right, and every asshole in the 15 rows ahead of you is going to be like, I'm just going to try and get this out, and
Yep. And so I was looking forward to that. Now the flight attendants were really cognizant of this fact. They knew that we were late, and they knew it was a holiday thing. And they actually, it's the first time I've seen it, but they announced, hey, some of these passengers here are going to have a pretty tight, if you guys would let them by, that would be cool.
That's awesome.
And so I got up about 6-7 rows further. I was up like right behind first class.
Right.
Just standing there waiting for this thing to attach so that I could take my mad dash over to the next terminal. And the guy sitting there actually had 2 dogs in his thing. Had 2 dogs. And he's like, hey, and he offered me advice. He said, look, we're here at Terminal C. Now, if you look, the signs are going to say this is the way this is the one you want to take on the Skylink, but you don't want to listen to that. If you really want to make it over to Terminal B, the part of the terminal you want to make it to, you want to go the other way on the Skylink.
That sounds terrible.
Well, but this guy knew what he was doing.
Okay.
I mean, literally. I mean, the Skylink, what it is, it's a rail that goes around both sides of DFW. One goes one way, one goes the other.
Right.
And where I was about equidistant to in terms of the terminals, but one of them actually was one fewer stop. It just circled around a little bit further, and so the way it was directing me was to take the one with more stops. And he said, no, you're going to screw yourself if you do that. You want to take the one that has fewer stops but has further distance to go. Right. And trust me, you're going to make it there about 3 minutes earlier, and that might be enough to make it, since you have so much time.
Wow.
So really cool guy. He gave me this advice, and then he said, but you know what? This is going to still be really tight. You're going to need a little bit of help from up above.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly. Real nice guy.
He meant the pilot, right?
Yeah, exactly. Help from up above. And I said, well, maybe so. Nicely. He said,
Right.
but he followed it up and said, I really hope that you're not an unbeliever, because if you are, there's no way you're going to make it.
Oh!
All right, so we've won the experiment. Did you make it?
As it so happens, I made it.
Oh,
In fact, I busted my ass to get there, and I made it there like probably 2 minutes later than the time that they, if they had boarded on time, and the flight were leaving when it was supposed to leave, I still made it there early enough to be there before it left, but I would have been watching it departing from the gates because they close it up like 10 minutes before, and I was there about 7 minutes before it was supposed to take off. Fortunately, the flight crew hadn't made it there yet either.
So when did you convert?
Right.
So it obviously
on the Skylink you converted to Christianity. That's how you made
on the way over.
Yeah.
On the way over, yes.
Those people, it's so nervy to say something like that to someone. It reminds me of the time I was at the beach with my family here in Corpus, and I was wearing a CCA shirt, and we had these shirts that down the back it's just dozens and dozens of in the background it's just dozens and dozens of religious atrocities that have occurred over the ages, and then over top of it in big letters it says thank God I'm an atheist. And this woman came over to me and said, oh hi, I really liked your shirt, blah 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 blah. I was like, oh thank you. And she's like, yeah, I really hate atheists. And
Wait, what?
yeah. And I looked at her
How
for a
did you
second.
misinterpret that?
Well, it's Corpus Christi and no one knows how to read. So,
God, I'm an atheist.
yeah. I think she thought it said, thank God I'm not an atheist. And she was coming over to share her bigotry against atheists with me. I'm like, actually, I am an atheist. This is my family. We're all atheists. But it would never occur to me to walk over to someone wearing a Christian shirt and,
Yeah.
or like an ant. I'm just like, what?
That's
What is wrong with people?
It's Corpus.
At least I wasn't wearing this shirt.
well. It's also the difference of being in the majority versus the minority.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's a lot of privilege.
This is my Book of Mormon shirt. and
What does it say?
This is a great song. I love it. It's like my favorite one ever. It's Hasa Diga Ibawe.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, which is a song from the Book of Mormon, and what it means in their little, I doubt this is real language, but no. This is an African tribe, and they're singing, whenever bad shit happens, we just say,
Hasadiga Ibawe.
Hasadiga Ibawe, and they sing their song. It's like when the bad guys come and cut off the girls' clitorises, we say Hasadiga Ibawe, and it's a nice fun thing. Well, Hasadiga Ibawe is fuck you God.
Well, Hasadiga means
that's awesome.
fuck you.
I need one of those shirts now.
I highly recommend the Book of Mormon.
yeah.
Definitely worth watching.
Yeah, and even if you can't afford tickets, the soundtrack is amazing.
I've not heard any of it. I was telling Jeff for the show that I almost went to see it in San Antonio, and I was like, I don't want to see it enough to drive to San Antonio. So maybe I'll have to rethink that policy. Before we move on to the next topic, I did try to find nuns doing vagina monologues. I didn't find that, but I found these great videos that you can go look for if you want to. Cleaner than a nun's vagina. That was only 23 seconds, so that's pretty good. Drier than a nun's vagina.
Is that a little longer?
209. The longest one, 616. It's just
So close.
so close. Is anal blasphemy sniffing the dead nun's vagina? So I'm just saying, there's a lot of nun vagina on YouTube. Who knew? These are the things you can learn by listening to our show.
Do you scratch before you sniff?
So, and I apologize for Victor. We were having a fun time with dry, dead nun vagina, and then Victor had to go. All right, let's skip ahead real quick because I want to get to being in the closet, because I know, Chesney, you had a really shitty time over the holidays.
You say that, but this was actually a better Christmas than I've had in the past.
Give us like the quick version of your better holidays though, with relatives that you're closeted to?
Oh gosh. 10 minutes into a 4-hour car ride, my dad starts off with how Madeline Murray O'Hare deserved to be chopped to bits.
Very Christian of him.
Yes. Very upset that Christmas break is being replaced with winter break on public schools. Oh gosh, what else did they go to? My aunt, apropos of nothing, having had several beers in her, decides to spout off about how she's very pissed off that they're taking away football from high schools because if boys don't have something aggressive to do, they're going to turn into sociopaths or faggots.
Okay, sorry. I would not have lasted 10 minutes into this car ride, so I have a lot of respect for you, Chesney. I don't know how you do it.
I have sound-canceling headphones. Yeah, my favorite, though, was when my father passed me his smartphone asking me to preview a Facebook post talking basically about Jesus is the reason for the season, and he wanted me to spell check it, and I instead took a picture and posted it on Facebook. Because I am deceitful.
So do you feel like there's any way you could come out to your parents? I mean, is that a thing that you think about, or is it just like, oh, hell no?
You know, I go back and forth. I'm inherently an honest person because I can't really control what comes out of my mouth. And so there are times when I really just want to say something, and I'm like, oh, shit, I can't say that. Yeah, and I am then reminded of the things that I did when I was in high school and was slightly more rebellious and tried to come out, and that didn't end well. And then I've noticed...
How do you feel it coming out? I mean...
Well...
It's like, maybe there's not this thing, and they start screaming at you and you stop saying it?
Kind of. First off, there are good ways to come out, and then there are bad ways to come out. And when you're in high school, you always pick the bad way to come out. It usually starts for me when, first off, this was before I was actually an atheist, because I think a lot of people go through this wishy-washy, hippy-dippy kind of woo pagan religion.
Sure, I did that.
You know, I think a lot of people kind of went through that. And so I had purchased a lot of Wiccan books from half price and snuck them into my room. And at one point, my mother was yelling and screaming about me going to church and going to CCD and getting confirmed and whatnot. And at one point, I got mad, went to my room, pulled the books out of my hiding place, and kind of threw them at her and said, "Here, this is what I believe."
And said, Casa wa...
Hasadika Ibue. No.
I gotta learn how to say that.
Yeah, so now, apparently throwing a bunch of neo-pagan textbooks at your mother does not work very well in the coming out.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah, they also tend to, rationalize it away as, again, just a phase and what have you. So that didn't work out too well, and of course all my friends that were kind of neo-pagans at the time, just kind of took all my stuff and hid it under their bed instead. Like you do.
Right.
But yeah, honestly, with the atheist thing, my mother has gotten a little better with being more accepting of other ideas as she's gotten older. My father has actually gotten much, much, much worse. Unfortunately, the people that they hang out with, they're close friends, because we are from a very small town south of San Antonio. Some of the things that come out of their mouths, that's when you go, oh shit, there's no way in hell. Right. One of my mother's good friends has literally just said all of the horrible things you hear on the articles we read about atheists. They're terrible people, and I would never, I could never be friends with them, and I would never allow them to go to my school, and just every terrible thing you've ever heard. And you just sit there and go, what the hell is wrong with you people? Like, you've never even met an atheist except for what you've heard from Madeline Murray O'Hare.
They have met an atheist. They're just not aware.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is, after my dad made the Madeline comment, that most of the time I keep my mouth shut, smile, nod, move on, because you're never going to win these arguments. Right. But at that point, that's when I jumped up and I said, no. Like you roll up a newspaper, whack him on the nose. No.
Bad, Christian. Bad.
No. Murder is bad. I don't care who it is. They don't deserve that. Well, but she's the one who took God out of... No. No.
That's called the Constitution.
Right.
Yeah. No, she took God out of school. He's not allowed in there anymore. You can't pray anymore. Yeah, it's pretty bad. But these are the same people that thought Atlas Shrugged was a great Christmas movie.
Oh, God.
These are, this year they decided that American Sniper would be the ideal Christmas movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Killing little kids. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you were to actually tell them how much of that movie has been fabricated, they would probably try to come at you with steaks. But
ooh, like steaks, like ribeye, or are we talking? No, not that kind of steak. And you've Victor, if I'm not mistaken, you've actually almost accidentally been outed. I mean, like, didn't you have like books out or something? Or
okay. Before I came out, what the world? Okay, anyways,
butt. Talk to the butt.
Yeah, sorry about that. Sorry about that, booty. All right, I am actually out to my immediate family as an atheist. Yes, I am.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's just my bisexuality that I'm not out.
Okay.
But
so do you feel like that would be taken worse than your?
With my parents who blame everything that my aunt has gone wrong in my aunt's life for her being a lesbian, yes, I do. I very much do. It's actually harder. I think it's harder as they get older. I feel like it's getting harder and harder for me to just say anything like about atheism or anything about sexuality in general, because they've slowly started to become more conservative, and it's really crazy. I don't know why, but they are. I was the dumb teenager who came out as an atheist in the worst of ways. I came out on New Year's.
Yeah, always do it during a holiday. Yeah,
yes, it was and I my parents did the whole "but God is love" thing and all this other bullshit crap, which I over the last 3 years I realized it was all bullshit. But for myself, I've only come out to them. Anybody else in my family, I would not come out to, because all my cousins in Colombia, and all my family in Colombia, are more Catholic.
Colombia, the country.
Colombia, the country.
Okay.
Yes. Are more, I guess, I don't know, like Roman Catholic, like the Catholic plus. I don't know if that's the right word.
They're super.
Yes, they're super Catholics. Compared to my parents, and so that would be a really, really bad choice. I mean, really bad thing to do. My folks have almost added me to several of my religious friends who I don't like, who are older, like way older, like they're in their 70s.
You have a very eclectic group of friends.
Yep. Well, they those people, they're like really old, and they took care of my mom and myself and my brother and my sister whenever we were younger. They kind of introduced us to their church. That's where we got the whole Catholic communion thing and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
We basically became part of the church group and all that good stuff. And to them, I would not come out as an atheist, because they're very close to dying. They're really old, and I really
you're worried you'll kill them.
Yes, essentially, and like
Amos, I'm an atheist.
Yeah, I mean, they already hate Obama, and they think Obama's an atheist Muslim, which makes no sense to me.
Yeah, that's good.
But yeah, that's about it, really. I mean, with my family, they're just getting worse as time goes on. I mean, they're not as crazy as Chesney's family. Which is, I feel very blessed that my family isn't like that.
Speaking of which, time out. I just want to make sure that it's okay to tell you this.
This is a post show. If my family actually manages to find their way into post show, they've had to pay money to you.
They paid for it, yeah. But I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
So you are also in the closet. You're bisexual as well?
Yes.
And which do you think would be so? Victor was just saying that being an atheist is much better coming out that way than being bisexual. Is it the same for you, or?
Actually, I have the opposite expectation. Again, I've actually tried to come out as gay. I've never tried to come out as atheist, because I know that's not going to go over well. But hilarious shenanigans ensue in the 2 or 3 times that I've actually tried to come out. One started with, yeah, Mom, I'm actually dating Layla, the girl that you've met who's been at my place. At which the response was, well, we've all experimented in college, and Layla's a weird...
Wait, your mom came out to you, dude!
There are things she has said that makes me really wonder. But my favorite was, Layla's a weird name for a guy. But yeah, I think for me, they could handle me being gay better than they could handle me being an atheist, because at least when you're gay, you're just a horrible, dirty person who's made terrible decisions in life, and you'll probably die of AIDS. But
you even beg forgiveness for that too.
Yeah, but if you're an atheist, then you're, automatically, just by your existence, telling them that you think that they're wrong, in which case they have to immediately attack back because they're being persecuted.
Right.
So, and that's something that I waffle back and forth on, with, do I want to try and come out, or is it really none of their damn business who I sleep with?
Did our chat room, so Hiding at Work in the chat room says, my mom told me she'd rather be blank than bring home a black guy. Did they just censor the word gay? Did the chat?
Let me see.
Looks like it.
No, because
it's
I think
3 stars.
Yeah, no, but it she must be on an iPad because it's, even if we turn off the censor, it still censors people on iPads. So if anyone else is on an iPad, can you tell me if it's actually censoring the word gay? That's weird. And I wonder if it's because they don't want people to talk about gay people, or whether they don't want people to use it as a
Pejorative.
Yeah.
Wonder what.
Could be.
Huh.
Yes.
Wow. She'd rather that she be gay than bring home a black guy, which is just, wow. My family is really all kinds of, but I'm so glad it's not that.
Well, see, and I find that hilarious because my mother has actually told me she would rather, she said she doesn't care if I bring home a black guy as long as he's Catholic.
Has to be a Catholic black guy. So
I started to ask Hiding at Work if she could fuck.
Yeah, I don't think she can fuck in the chat room, I bet. So there you go. iPad. Okay. Anyway.
So I don't know if you had any other questions, but yeah, that's basically where I'm kind of at right now, kind of going back and forth with, yeah, I want to come out. No, I kind of don't, because it's really none of their business. But for me, my thing is, if I come out now, it won't, it's just dealing with it. But I have this fear that if I actually do, find a woman that I want to have a relationship with, then you have to deal with, well, you turned my daughter gay, or and that I just don't think anybody deserves to have the fallout of my family dealing with me put on somebody else.
Sure. And I think that's something that's really hard, and I have been on the receiving end of being in a relationship with someone, and it has nothing to do with gay or atheist issues, but just the family attacking me for one reason or another, and just being left high and dry. Just like, well, I'm just, I'm leaving you to the pit bulls that are my family. I've seen it happen to other people, and it's just one thing that I never, ever, ever let ever happen to any of my girlfriends or my wife. I think it's super important to hold your family accountable, although just to be fair, it's a lot easier for me to say that than someone who's saying shit like, I'd rather you be gay than bring home a black guy, or the opposite. My family isn't that messed up, so I don't know what that's like, but my plea for people is, don't let your significant others get fucked up by your family and just sit there and watch it happen. That's so shitty to do to someone.
Yep.
Last thing I wanted to talk about, and probably just do this real quickly, I had a great conversation with my father, great in quotes. After Christmas, he called me to wish me a Merry Christmas or whatever. And this was Sunday, I guess. And he said, oh, so what are you up to? And I said, oh, I'm just getting ready to go to my atheist meeting. And he's like, oh, yeah. Atheism is just like religion. And have you guys heard people say this before?
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
And I've heard it many, many times. So I tried to take a different approach with him, and I tried to be less, just go fuck yourself, and more, okay, let's work through this. And I, asked him, okay, well, so what parts of it do you think are, religion-y? And he said, well, you get together and you guys do volunteer work and try and help people. And I said, yeah. He's like, well, there you go. You're just like, and I was like, yeah, but then that's such a broad, AT&T is a religion because you guys get together and you do volunteer work in the community. He used to work for AT&T. So HEB is a freaking religion under that definition. And it was really just one of those things of just, and I also asked him, are you using that is that a negative? Is atheism being a religion and negative. It's like, oh no, not at all. I was like, okay, that's weird. So then what's your point? I don't understand why people want to say that.
Aaron Ra actually has a good spiel on this. Of course, I think Aaron Ra has a good spiel on everything. But he does talk about how religion wants to project its own faults onto atheists and then take on positive aspects it doesn't actually possess. One of them being, well, atheism is a religion just like we are. And yes, when they say that, they are actually using it in a negative term, even if they don't realize they're doing it.
That's why I asked my father openly, are you saying that's a bad thing?
Yeah, because they need a way to kind of even the playing field.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. If you have time and remember, if you can find that and post it to the Atheist Airwaves Facebook page, I'd really like to see it.
That's probably under Aaron's Religion Reverses Everything, because I have all of his videos memorized. Not at all.
I think it might be on that.
Chesney has an internal index of all things Aaron Ra. We've been talking about having him come down here, so I assume that you would be supportive of that idea.
I would bring paper towels.
Okay, then. I'm not sure if that makes me want to bring him down more or less. But so the more I just questioned it, I was kind of using, techniques from a manual for creating atheists during this conversation. I just said, okay, well, that definition doesn't work. So can you refine that definition to make something that fits better? And we just went through definition after definition after definition after definition, and I guess ultimately we didn't get anywhere, except that he kind of backed off it. And at the end of the conversation, and I think this is, what I want to say is this is the benefit of Peter Boghossian's street epistemology technique, is that the end of the conversation was, well, I have to go back and think about this more. And that's so much more satisfying than atheism is a religion. No, it's fucking not. Yeah, it fucking is. And then hanging up the phone in anger. And, ultimately what I told him for my part was, if he developed a working definition of religion that fit actual religion and atheism, I'm all right with it. I'm not upset if you call atheism a religion, except unless you are using a definition that is stupid. That annoys me more than any suggestion that atheism is religion, because I don't hate religions because religion is bad. I hate religions because none of them are true. They're not backed by anything. And I'm very comfortable with the epistemology of atheism and the solidness of the ground having rejected all of the religious claims.
I don't even hate the lack of truth. I mean, I think fantasy life is fine. I only hate it to the extent that it harms other people.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. If you want to have a healthy fantasy life about whatever, go ahead, If it's something that brings you joy and solace and whatever else, go for it. But don't push that on my kids,
Sure. I guess I'm just a bigger dick because I...
Well, I fell firmly in the Matt Dillahunty camp of even your own personal beliefs can potentially harm others in ways that you may not foresee, because your beliefs inform your actions, and when your beliefs are based on things that are not true, your actions will be harmful.
Well, they may not be harmful, but they'll be unpredictable. And that's my big thing, is that, and I feel like if your beliefs are based on nonsense, like, say, the Bible or the Quran, the outcomes cannot be... I mean, it could be anything. I mean, you have one Christian who will cherry pick out only the good stuff. Help the poor, clothe the naked, feed the hungry, and then other people will say, no, it's just God hates fags. It's just if the foundation of your beliefs is nonsense, the odds of your actions being nonsense are remarkably higher than if you have a solid epistemology and a solid grounding in your beliefs. So I don't think I've ever heard Matt Dillahunty talking about that, but well, I'm sure I have, but I don't recall. But for me, I just the uncertainty, because I don't think it's not necessary that your actions will be problematic if you believe nonsense. It's just more likely, is my thing. The other thing is that I value information. I acquire information with a heroin addict like vigor, and to see people who don't care about that just deeply offends my information acquired.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's the do you care if your beliefs are true
Yes.
versus do they make you happy, and
Right.
sometimes those are mutually exclusive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, we've talked on this show, I think mostly post-show, about the great God debate and all that stuff over at A&M Corpus Christi. And it's why I will stand up there and talk to a Christian for 20, 30 minutes because they're saying this is true. And then a pagan will get up and I'll be talking to the person and exploring their beliefs. And I'll say, well, how do you know this is true? And it's like, I don't know that it's true. It just makes me feel good. And so you're not making a statement of fact. You're not trying to tell me and convince me that this is a true thing. And they will say, no, I'm not at all. It just works for me. And I'm like, okay, well, I have nothing else for you because whatever, man. As long as you're not trying to convince me that your bullshit is true.
I've had plenty of those conversations with my parents. They just they're happy with their beliefs. They don't care about if it's true or not.
Yeah, and my mother just received 3 separate books on the Virgin Mary from one of her book clubs, and was waxing poetic about how we have definitive scientific proof that the Virgin Mary was real because we now have her cloak somewhere in.
So she left it in the coat check, and they found the tag.
Yeah, they
with the Mary on it.
Virgin Mary.
Yeah, it's somewhere in South America, and according to her. Scientists have done extensive tests on it, and it can't be burned by a match, and it can't be cut by scissors, and it's miraculous, and it hasn't, the colors haven't faded in 1,000 years, and...
How have they dated it if they can't cut it?
So the
Or
cloak
burn it, really.
is made of adamantium.
Science, yo.
Yeah.
Science.
Yeah, so it's magic, and she's talked about all the people that have been healed at the
God.
at the fountain in Tours, and just all the stories that have ever been told. That she apparently has been reading these biographies. People have been putting together Mary's life, and we know everything about it, and it's just fascinating. And I'm just like, she never existed.
Right, and you're basing, yeah. A lot of people don't know how to know real things. They don't even understand how to analyze information and make it.
Well, okay, that is something that I need to rant about real quick if we have time.
We do. I want to get to one comment that was in the chat room, but go
for
ahead.
it. Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, there was one other argument since I was home for 3 days and I have massive amounts of ammunition. We did, for some strange reason, get onto global warming. I'm not sure how this happened. And I was talking about how, I have evidence of these certain things. And my mother basically asserted that you can find evidence for either side. There's no way to know who's true, and you basically have to pick the one you like best.
Oh, God.
And as a scientist, I'm sitting here going, how do you even respond to that? If you don't come from a position of, an epistemological position of, yes, we can know certain things for certain.
Or as close to certain as
Right.
is necessary for practical purposes.
Right. And then you start to get into the conspiracy theory. Well, that's what it was. It was because I was talking about numbers and facts. And she's like, well, numbers can be manipulated and statistics lie. And I'm like, that's conspiracy theory thinking. If you don't know how to choose correct sources,
Right.
if you don't know how to fact check, then of course you're going to be suspect of everything. But that goes back to the fact that my parents are not versed in how to do research.
Critical thinking skills are lacking, and it drives me crazy when I hear people say, well, I can find you a study that says this. And it's like, yes, and then we can look at your study and my study and the studies that have been done, other studies, because it's not enough to just find one.
Yeah.
Because repeatability is an important aspect of knowledge and science. And so I get so fed up with people who can't understand how to analyze information and collect data.
And at that point, the argument is over because I don't have the patience, and she doesn't have the patience for me to give her, an entire semester's worth of philosophy courses.
Right. All right, so before we get out of here, I wanted to address a comment in the chat room. Anonymous 66161 says, there are plenty of atheists whose actions are harmful. Absolutely.
What is your point?
However,
Yeah, what is your point?
Well, no, I mean, I was thinking the same thing with Matt Dillahunty. He gets attacked by all kinds of atheists for being for his association with Atheist Plus.
Oh, yeah.
sure. a previous association.
Yeah, previous association before they got all crazy and whatever.
Right.
But you know what? You're associated with it all, and you're associated with it forever.
Sure.
And the attacks on him aren't even for the nasty part of Atheist Plus. It's really from MRAs.
Yeah.
Well, and so my response to a non-66161 though is that their actions, their harmful actions, are informed by their beliefs, but those aren't atheist beliefs, because atheism is a lack of belief. So yeah, atheists can do awful things, but not because they're atheists. There is no God, therefore I'm going to set this mosque on fire. It requires a belief that Islam is an evil that must be opposed, which is not atheism. That is an extremism of a different type.
Anti-theism?
Huh?
Anti-theism?
It could be anti-theism. That could be a part of it.
There you go.
Right. But a Christian, let's say a Muslim who carves up their daughter's genitals, that can be connected right back to Islam very nicely. A Christian who throws their gay child out of the house because thou shalt not lie with a man like you do with a woman, that can be tied directly back into Christianity. The actions of an atheist cannot be tied back into atheism. It has to be connected into something else. So there's literally, and if anyone can think of anything that, a behavior that you can tie directly to atheism without stopping at any other thing, I'd love to hear it, but I can't think of a single thing.
No, because it's a lack of a belief. It's nothing positive that you could assert to act upon. Nobody, I think this is somebody else's example, but nobody goes on a killing spree because they don't believe in unicorns.
Right.
True.
Yeah, and so anybody that is killing in the name of atheism, of course, those are also people that we will attack for having non-true beliefs, and we can go down the list. Again, going back to epistemology, there are some things we can say this is harmful, using certain objective scales of harm.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and
masturbation does not count. That's definitely not harmful.
Yeah,
unless you start chafing.
And that is the sound of Victor walking back his opinion about masturbation. It's like, oh yeah, that does suck.
Lube.
You don't have lube in boot camp.
Oh,
sorry. Spit.
Chemistry. You gotta science that shit. They don't.
Not the shoe polish.
Oh, ow.
They managed to make lube in prisons, so I'm pretty sure in boot camp you could. I don't know how, but I have read stories about it. Yes.
Dude, we need to find that article. That's awesome.
I'll post it on the Facebook page. Thank you guys for coming, Jeff. Thanks as always, and we will see you guys next week, 7:30 p.m. Central, on Ustream because it's better there. See ya.